The day so many people on the internet thought would never happen has come. The Snyder Cut is being released, and I've got my thoughts right now. Hey everybody, I'm Dan Murrell, and I don't do a lot of breaking news on the channel so far, but this seemed like the story to break in the breaking news because the word officially came today after a few days of heavy internet speculation that the long-rumored, long-awaited, much campaigned for Snyder Cut of Justice League will be released next year, 2021, on HBO Max, which is Warner Media's streaming platform. So before we get into my thoughts and the things that I got right, very few, and the things that I got wrong, quite a bit about this, let's go into just a few of the details about this big development for DC fans, for movie fans, for people that have followed this saga for many, many years now. According to an article that was published on The Hollywood Reporter, this really began in earnest late last year. As a matter of fact, the date that they put on it is Monday, November 18th, 2019. Zack Snyder received a call from his agent saying that Toby Emmerich at Warner was interested in actually following through on a release of the Snyder Cut after literally years of campaigning from fans, from actors involved in the film itself. There was a screening. This screening has been talked about for the last week or so, held at Zack Snyder's home for several executives at Warner Brothers, at DC, from HBO Max, to see what the path forward could be. The decision was made to go ahead with production on finishing the Snyder Cut. And now, right now, it's not exactly clear what form that this is going to take. There's been talk that it's going to be like a 4-hour director's cut, just as a movie. Zack Snyder himself has brought up the possibility of doing cliffhangers, doing it as chapters, kind of in the way that The Hateful Eight was recut for Netflix as an episodic show, more or less. We don't yet know what form it's going to take. The estimated cost has been pegged at $20 to $30 million. So this isn't just a release of the existing media. This is Warner putting tens of millions of dollars into finishing the film, finishing visual effects. There's also been talk of assembling some of the cast for reshoots. So that's where we stand. We know that it's coming. We have a rough estimation of what it's going to cost, we think. But other than that, a lot of questions still up in the air. Right now, though, a lot of fans who have been championing this movement for years, celebrating, and largely because it proves a lot of folks on the internet, myself included, very, very wrong. You know what? I'll save you some trouble. I have said on the record, I've said on air, I've said on many different shows, many different times, that this cut would never see the light of day. So if you're a fan of that movie that came out 7 months ago and was a horrific failure at the box office, causing their entire superhero division to go into turnaround at Warner Brothers, you're still out of luck. The Snyder Cut, you don't, if I'm not being flippant or jokey here, like if you're a fan of, you don't want to see this. Mm. It's not ever going to be a movie, and it's never going to be finished. And I honestly believed that, even last week and into this week, as more rumors started to circulate around the Snyder Cut becoming public. I took a very wait-and-see approach, because the one thing that I will say that I think I got fairly right, and that has been confirmed by the THR story, by a lot of the surrounding things, was that this was not a cut that was just laying around Warner. And I think that was a misconception that was around, particularly right after Justice League was released, was that there was a finished cut of Zack Snyder's movie just sort of sitting around that they could just pull the lever and release. Here are some things that I misjudged, and it's a lot of them. First of all, as I mentioned, I never thought that Warner would actually invest tens of millions of dollars into this film, because they lost tens of millions of dollars reportedly on Justice League. Justice League, the version that did come out, which was credited to Zack Snyder as the director, but which Joss Whedon stepped in to oversee after Zack Snyder left the project due to an awful personal tragedy. That version lost the studio tens of millions of dollars, was not a box office success, even though it made over $500 million. The amount of money that was put into it, it was heavily reshot. I never thought that the studio would put more money into that project, having already lost money. However, what I think helped put this over the finish line, and really may have been the ultimate thing, and it's something that a lot of us couldn't have seen coming, particularly in the first year of this movement, is streaming. Warner announced that they were even doing a streaming platform almost a year after Justice League was released in theaters, and a year into the release of the Snyder Cut movement. And so I think where a lot of folks, myself included, were short-sighted was thinking about where else Warner could put the Snyder Cut out, other than just put it in theaters or put it on Blu-ray. Those both have costs attached to them that putting it on a streaming service doesn't necessarily have. They don't necessarily have the distribution and the packaging costs. They don't have to print discs and print packaging. They don't have to put it in stores. They don't have to put it in theaters. They can throw the switch and put it on their own streaming platform, and that's exactly what they have decided to do. I think that streaming put this over the finish line and gave the Snyder Cut a venue that it didn't necessarily have for the first year after Justice League came out. The other thing that I underestimated, and this has really been coming on strong the last year or so, was Zack Snyder himself. This was a movement that was led by fans at the outset of this, because largely, again, personal tragedy overshadowed this project as far as Zack Snyder was concerned. This is why Joss Whedon had to come in. The fans kept this alive, but Zack Snyder and a lot of the actors involved with the film, especially over the last year, have really pushed this to the forefront, and I think kept them motivated to say, no, I want to bring this to you. We want to show this to you, so keep pushing, keep asking. And ultimately, that's what won the day. So, I'll take my lumps. And for fans that have been pushing for this, you should be celebrating, and I know a lot of you are. And a lot of the reason why there's a lot of celebrations that there were folks, myself included, that, let's be honest, let's break this down. The Snyder Cut was a punchline for years now. We made an honest trailer of it for an April Fool's joke. I've used it as a punchline. I did a Scoops McGee thing at Comic-Con where release the Snyder Cut was the punchline to every bit. So there is definitely a feeling of comeuppance today, because so many people that are on the internet, so many people that analyze media were proven wrong today. Those that said that it would never see the light of day, we were proven wrong. And so now we are seeing studios make those kinds of moves that would have been unthinkable even 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. And I think that's why so many people, including myself, never thought that this would happen, because this is new ground for everybody. And what it's turned out to be is a great boon for fans and for creators who want to bring their work to the forefront. Because that, I think, is why we're seeing this happen, is because Warner Media has HBO Max. They have a platform. They have a way to sell that platform now. And there better be a lot of eyeballs on this. And that's another thing for fans that have supported the Snyder Cut. Step 1 and Step 2 have been accomplished. Step 1 was getting the word out and starting the movement. And that movement was started almost the second that Justice League hit theaters. Step 2 was accomplishing that goal. And that's a step that not many of these movements obtain. One of the films you see over my shoulder here, the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, that took decades to come to fruition, and even then it was an assemblage of the best they could do given the resources that they had. The idea that a fan movement like this could come to fruition, and with the original cast coming back, or at least some of them, to do things, the resources to do the visual effects in the way that the director wants to do them, the director himself overseeing the project and releasing them, and the original studio putting the project and resources behind it, is almost unheard of. Step 3, though, and that's something where I hope that we will see that, is supporting it. Because now, if you've wanted to see the Snyder Cut, you now have that opportunity. The time and the effort that you put into this, and there was a lot of time and effort put into this, that's part of why it was a punchline for so many people, and why I even used it as a punchline, was that the Release the Snyder Cut movement was so ever-present and everywhere that it became just a part of the scenery. It became something to comment on because it was everywhere. You've gotten what you wanted now, but you have to support it. So, no pirating, no torrenting, none of that stuff. Because if Warner goes through all of this and they release the Snyder Cut on HBO Max and they don't see an uptick in subscribers, they don't see an uptick in their metrics saying that more people watch this or it attracted new users, that's part of the reason why they're doing this, because they want to attract new people to their platform. And if people are getting it from other means, or if you've been saying release the Snyder Cut for 3 years but then don't actually follow through and watch it or support it, then studios and entities like Warner are going to be less likely to do this kind of thing in the future. If you are a Release the Snyder Cut supporter, this is a big day for you. And I hope that you enjoy what you're getting. I honestly, I've been on the record, I'm not the biggest fan of the aesthetic and the ethos that Zack Snyder has brought to the DC films, but even I am intrigued at this point about what this movie could be, largely because it has stayed in the public consciousness for so long. I'm eating crow today. And a lot of other people are eating crow today. I said that this would never come out. It's coming out. I was definitely wrong. 100%, because this is a move that is almost unheard of. We are living in a new world. We're living in a new world of how stuff is distributed. Obviously, what we're going through right now as far as VOD and stuff on demand and on video and skipping theaters altogether, this is just another step in this crazy new landscape that every company out there is trying to figure out. And obviously everyone who studies media or talks about media and movies and TV on the internet is trying to figure out. So thank you for watching. Again, I was wrong on the Snyder Cut. Were you wrong? Did you think it was going to come out? Did you never in a million years think it was going to come out? Let me know in the comments below. And please, I'm sure there will be a lot of videos about the Snyder Cut. I thank you for watching mine. Please be sure if you liked what you saw to like, share, subscribe, do all the things that the mighty algorithm loves. Also, there's going to be more videos here on the channel this week. I've got some reviews coming up. I did a 1999 version of Charts with Dan earlier this week. I also put out a video recently about RoboCop, one of my favorite movies, why I love RoboCop. Check that out right now. And if you want to see even more of this kind of stuff, I'm over on Patreon, patreon.com/Dan Murrell. Not only talking about movies, I've got a monthly movie club that we'll be finishing soon. I also have a feature commentary that I do every month. So much fun stuff and a great community that we're building over there. So if you want to check me out there, you can as well. Thank you so much for joining me as I try to dissect what in the hell's going on. This has been one of the crazier stories, and particularly, I think, when you look back in the evolving story of fandom, lowercase f fandom, not the company I used to work for, lowercase f fandom, this is going to be one of those chapters where analysts and historians are going to look back and say, this was a case of fans being tenacious, of fans demanding and knowing what they wanted, and ultimately being in a landscape where a big studio said, you know what, we're going to do it. We're pulling the trigger. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.